Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm assuming you are both of those. My name is John P. Wright, and I have been in the industry of, we shall say, visual arts, but mainly audio and production, film editing, and stuff like that. Probably professionally, I started out around 1957. Of course, going to college and all that had to be pursued, and that meant, first of all, I went to an adult education engineering school in 57, and then made my way up through about 5 colleges to get the required documentation, accreditation and scholarship commitments, etc. And finally going to university to get BSc. Okay. Now, about 1959, when I was halfway through, or trying to get to the point of leaving the adult education places, I went on to obviously go to the college. Now, along the way there was an enormous change in everything surrounding wise. Technology was increasingly becoming much more better, let's say. It's the only way you can put it, than it had been. Moving away from the ugliness of some of the stuff I had known, technically, but other things still were to be worked out. And then there was military facilities that had to be gone to by me, and more education, and much more, until in the end, in 1966, I finished out of that with master's degree, and also a member of the Institute of Electronic Engineers. And then later I managed to squeeze in, I guess, like a lot of us did in those days, for a draftsmanship degree, which was something I've always been interested in. To me, that is an art form. And so, having said that, from there I moved myself on into working for myself, pursuing a career in recording talent, be it spoken word, be it film, but especially music. So it meant that I had to get a studio of my own together in Great Britain. I should have said that, but that was then. And I did that until 1970, when I opened up a very big facility, after I'd earned my money, as it were, in England, and made another step forward, because technology was becoming one of the most sought after things to match the talent that was coming on, of which there was plenty. However, the road's still to be made, and in the video side they definitely were lacking still. It was audio first, no doubt about that, that really stepped up to the plate, as it were. So we moved on through the 70s, and I recorded tons and tons of rock and roll bands of the day. Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Humble Pie, Small Faces, Who, Bad Company, a whole pile of them of that ilk, until I had a couple of 2 studios and then a 3rd one. But the punk era, which everybody has talked about, came in, and therefore I decided I would not be able to compete against that. That wasn't an art form to me. It was a corruption of art. So, like all things though, it's all down to whoever feels that, you know, whatever they want to say is what they're going to say. That's all well and good. I folded the tent, came to the United States, and built more studios, and went on the road with a lot of rock and roll bands, but also managed to record an awful amount of other people who were not in rock and roll, jazz, and some great people, too many to mention in a lot of ways, because they left a big influence on me. People I always had wanted to work for or with. Plus doing more film editing and stuff like that in movies, and also pursuing a technical career in audio professional equipment, which I started about 1959 actually. It's just the commitments I've mentioned to you had to be fulfilled before I could even get a look in. So really, where I'm today is what I've always done. It's just that what we're talking about now is a different concept. So that's really my credentials up to now. Thank you.
I love to hear the English language. Lord knows how it gives me a thrill.
Well, I would say myself today, it's very important that we have the role as follows, and that is to allow the up-and-coming artists, the artists that we already have established, be able to interpret what they have in their mind fast and quick and with accuracy without too much manipulation of technical operations to get there. Now in my profession, I'll be honest with you, I am that person who brings that on, not the machinery. The machinery only backs up what I already know and want to do. But that's because I'm at a level where I have found out ways to do what I want to do my way. Very little machinery that we have, I'm calling it machinery because that's what we've always called it. It might be electronic, it might be a lot of things, is lacking in that department. In other words, they haven't worked out the condition that the human is doing when he is very creative. He's very excited, his adrenaline or her adrenaline is pumping. So therefore you want something that is not going to go wrong and catch everything on the vital moment of your realizing where you're going. So really that's all I can say about it.
Is it something I read or something? Hey, I think it's an illusion. See,
you know, I definitely can, because the only problem with all this instant this, instant that, you don't know what you're looking at and what it pretends to. Meaning, sometimes the imagery is not always cracked up to be, or there are other things in it which, really speaking, only tell you, and nearly every time this is the case, where they're not spelling out the condition that you're experiencing. That can only be done by a human. Example, let's say in my profession that I have a problem in a certain area where I can't get the manufacturer to reveal a single thing. So before I delve in, I've got to know what is in that particular situation. Now we're talking about the technical aspect of this, and that is, if I diagnose something as being wrong, that's great, I found it, okay. Now, if I then want to get the visual, instant as you say, and I look down the list of what possibly could be wrong, I will say 9 times out of 10 they do not spell out what has caused the problem or what the problem is, only what each one does, which I know, which you should know if you are serious about the industry. In other words, if you want to be a board changer, that's great, they'll tell you what board is what. Now that's the technical side, that's a drag for me. Now on the visual side, concerning anything else, you have to know what you're looking at. You have to understand what does that concern. Let's say another example might be this. Let's say you're looking for something in the art world that is relevant to you. You might want to find out who drew something or something like that. All right? But with me, I have to know, I might be looking for something very spectacular. The time it takes to get the instant, yes, when you get the command, yeah, that's it right there, boom. But you may have taken 2 hours to find that. I cannot afford that time because of all the brain cells that I have are draining while I'm waiting. So really speaking, I can understand for a lot of people it will give them a grasp straight away, but for what reason, what do they know? So they can relay it to somebody. But does it go inside? You've got to get the information the hard way first. So there's a classic example of a detraction versus, obviously there are some benefits depending on what level you're at.
I've taken all your love to ease my pain.
Well, you know, there's only one answer to that: advertisements. And depending on what magazine that you see, which are now all glossy and they're all Madison Avenue as it were, and for only $5 you can get 10 megabytes or whatever per bit, whatever it might be, they overblow the limitations. Well, I must say limitations, they are limitations, but they overblow the capability of what you're seeing. And you look at it and you say, well, wait a minute, they've made it look like a slinky lady, and they've made it look so sexy that you've got to have it. You know, you got, oh boom. What they don't tell you is most of the control faces on these things in my industry, be they mixers, be they anything, handheld devices, they're made by an accountant. You may laugh and smile, okay? This is probably not where you wanted this question to go, but that's where it's going to go. And you'll find out that the buttons wear out, okay? And you keep hitting them, you get jitter. What's happening here? What's happening here? Or the screens go dim, or whatever it might be, okay? Rather than saying, we have this particular item in there made by so-and-so, oh yeah, I know what that is, I know, yeah, that's great. Or this, or that. Or somebody I can respect has used it. But no, what they're trying to do, they're trying to hook the people, let's say, way less than my age, into saying this can make you the new Picasso. This can make you the new Jimi Hendrix. Well, you see, you know, like I say, the advertisements that you see are very, very sparse in one way. But in another way, they seem to have the ability to make someone, you know, be in love with what they're seeing without even trying it. So it's like everything else in life, you've got to get your hands on something before you can actually make a judgment on anything. So if it's the one thing I have a problem with, it's the Madison Avenue approach to all these wonderful toys, we're going to call them that, before you get up to the top league, that we are being bombarded with. There's not much else I can say about it really, because the things that have really affected me in all of this have been, in the old days, the profession being the thing. You were allowed to have the use of a professional piece of equipment for a few days to analyze it yourself. There was no Madison Avenue you know, approach. You either found it fitted you, or it worked, or golly, I've got to have that. Oh my goodness, how am I going to find the money for that? But it was never for only. It was a rarefied profession where it was costly. So the good thing is, obviously, we have got very reasonably priced items now, in fact very cheap, but they can't be doing everything that they're supposed to do for long. I mean, think about it, rough handling. So there you go, that's the influence I feel it's had on me in my profession.
I don't like to do no working.
You know, that's going to be a little odd for people to understand, but if you're actively involved in something and you give your all, you sometimes want to escape from what you have been doing and have somebody who's in that line of work, but in such a way that they calm you down. Calm you down, it doesn't mean to say, hey man, no. What it means is, it relaxes you. Alright, for many, many, many years, I discovered this wonderful painter. On PBS, believe it or not, although people who know me know that I'm not in love with them, for a lot of reasons. A guy called Bob Ross. Now Bob Ross had the absolute gift of being able to paint a picture of some beauty whilst describing it. Now that was the beauty of the visual art to me. Watching him talk about how you do that, he had a gift of doing that, and also the paintings will come to life. And since I've travelled quite a bit, I've seen those places. There were never ever pictures of people, there were always landscapes. But his gift was, for about half an hour each show I believe, it would make you just totally relax, and you knew it would absorb right into your soul and body. And you couldn't wait for another episode. Luckily, sometimes they run one after the other. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Now, that's a sad thing. So now we get people who copy people. That's another thing I have a problem with. Originality, we'll talk about that later. Now, the other thing is that one of my favourite visual situations, again, relates to nature. Because it's a soft curve and it's something I do not have a control over, so when I see something, in other words, I can't order it. So it's got to be something I really love, or something I may feel that I want to rid my mind of technical things, or even anything. And that is watching birds in their natural habitat. I mean, I'm not talking about the guys who lay on the stomach all night. I ain't going to do that. No, I like looking at hummingbirds, absolutely lovely looking. Oh, that's a work of art right there. Watching them, why are they like that? Or birds, the way they behave, or a lot of things that concern something that doesn't concern the human race. Looking at stars is one thing, but that can make you crazy, and you end up looking at cataracts. That's what you're looking at. You know, as you get older, that's what you're looking at. I used to like a lot of artists who were in the music industry. They're now more tardy. A few of them not, but really, that really ends that question. I can't answer it anymore.
And then the big boy took him aside, a boy with more size than he had a mind to have. He said to him the same thing I asked myself.
Well, you know, the one thing that's always influenced me and has not got lost with me concerning the following. When I see something or hear something that is absolutely perfect, and I used to feel there was a way of finding out how and why you do that. There isn't. It's either, I'm talking about the unfabricated, I'm not talking about the Andy Warhol syndrome or anything like that. I'm talking about something you look at it and it gets right into your soul, or you listen to something, you go, oh my goodness, you want to hear the same passage again and again. I have found that what it is you must fill your soul with what you honestly want. Unload your soul, but you've got to fill it first. You've got to, by reality of life, you've got to experience something which may not come out for quite a while. You've got to get a stack pile of events before they come out. But by looking at artwork, very few of them could it be said about the artist that they had no experience in life. Nearly everyone did. You look at the Moulin Rouge, you look at all those French paintings, you look at landscapes, you look at a portrait, and you look at it and you look at it and you look at it, or you listen to some music and you hear the technical side and how beautiful it is, and you find out it was done so simply. It was done when the musicians were just fresh, and he captured all of them. And I know a lot of people who have said to themselves, oh, if you measure the room at the site, look at, you know, and we can do this and we can manipulate this and get that up. No, sorry son, or ma'am, it ain't gonna work. You have got to understand there are time-orientated items in life which are very, very beautiful. And if you remember them, and if you only take one thing out of what they are doing, and from each of whatever you may admire, there's a darn fine chance that you may be onto something where you yourself can use that as an example. Not copy, but it's like someone who tells you something from your family, and if everything else you reject, except for the one thing, and that one thing you find out later and you enhance that and it becomes your life. And if it's good, it's good. That's all I can say really. It's a matter of really understanding what you're looking at, and that way it never gets old. But if you wear it out by analysing things, copying them, they disappear from you and you get nothing out of you of originality. So that's one of my gripes about all of these modern so-called tools that you have to do this. No tool on earth can be better than the one that has been given to you in your life by someone else, or you're born, no doubt. Now, my other conclusion on all this is that the following. You know, technology is fine, but you know, we don't serve it, we don't work for it. It works for us, it serves us. If it gets in the way, I can tell you right now, it becomes the latest submarine in the local canal. Enough?
My Lord,